Today's edit is gonna be awesome and very easy, so stay tuned. Hey there, my name is Ali. All the photos we're gonna use today are gonna be available in the description, as well as my brushes. I'm gonna link my brushes down below so you can download them and use them. We'll start by creating a new document. I'll go something like 3000 by 3700. This is the ratio I like to use, but then you don't have to do this. I'm just doing it, which is reducing the image size. This is just so that the video goes faster. If you have this link and you reduce the image size, the width and the length are gonna be reduced in like an aspect ratio. Okay, let's pull the first photo. I like always to work from behind to the front, so this is the photo that's gonna be used as like the furthest away. I'm gonna use these mountains, something like that. Maybe make it, it's gonna be somewhere here. Let's pull our next photo, which is this one. This one actually is gonna be behind, and I'm gonna flip it horizontal. I want the light source to be here because we have like the mountains on that side. Okay, now I'm gonna add a layer mask. Make sure you just rasterize your layers if you need your file to go faster. Okay, now I'm gonna add on top of this one a layer mask, and then using a black brush, I'm just gonna erase the edge like that. Then I'm gonna use the quick selection tool. Just select, okay, selecting everything. I need to stand on the layer, not the mask. Okay, I don't know why it's like, I need to, it's selecting everything. I need to reduce the hardness. Okay, it's not working, so I'm just gonna stick to the normal magic wand, and I'm just gonna select the sky, and I'm just gonna erase it. But I'm not gonna erase the whole thing, just the edges here and there, and maybe fading a little bit some of the mountain. Okay. You don't have to worry about this area now because we're gonna add layers on top of it. Now I'm gonna pull this layer. This is our base layer. I'm gonna have it something like that. Okay, then I'm gonna use the magic wand now, and I'm just gonna select. Some parts you can't do them using the magic wand, so you just gotta do them manually. You only use the magic wand when you find contrast between layers. Like for example, this is white, this is dark, so you can use the magic wand. But here we have white in clouds and white on mountains, so it made a problem. So I'm gonna press Alt on the lasso tool and just remove that one. And this is blue, this is blue, this is white. This is gonna do a little bit of problem, but it's okay. I'm just gonna fix it. Yeah, something like that. And I guess we're good. Let me just select the remaining. Okay, and make sure it's rasterized. Add layer mask. You got the opposite of what you want. Immediately Control I to invert the selection. Okay, now I believe these mountains are too huge, so I'm just gonna make them a little bit smaller, something like that. And I want to fade them. I want these to be very further away in the background, so I'm just gonna press Control M for curves, and then I'm gonna pull the black point up. This will fade them into the background, something like that. And of course, reducing the opacity will also work. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this layer that I just created. I'm gonna pull it actually a little bit like that, a little bit up. Okay, I'm gonna hold Alt and I'm gonna make a duplicate of it, and then I'm gonna flip this one horizontal, put it behind of it, something like that, and then I'm just gonna make it, I don't want it to be exactly the same, so I'm gonna make it a little bit like taller like that, and I'm gonna apply layer mask for now. I'm gonna use the rectangle marquee, and I'm just gonna delete this area, delete this area as well, so I can press Ctrl T and warp it. I want to make some sort of variation in this one. I don't want it to look exactly the same as the other one. Okay, now we have some sort of a variation. Looking good. Let me take these two, pull them down a little bit. Okay, so here we have our light source, here we have a mountain, and we have the two mountains. Let's group everything together now. And this part, I want to create some sort of a path inside this mountain, something like that maybe. This is gonna be a little bit tricky. So, I'm gonna draw something like that first. I want the path to go like that. Then this is the edge of the path. If you don't understand yet what I'm doing, just wait a moment and you're gonna get it. Okay, so now I made my selection. I'm gonna just add a new layer and just paint any color on top of it. Doesn't matter for now. I like to do that because whenever I wanna get the exact selection again, I just hold Control and I click the thumbnail here. It gives me the selection. So now I don't need this layer now, I just need the selection of it. I'm gonna close it, add a new layer. Then I'm gonna jump to the clone stamp. Make sure it's on all layers and make sure it's like the normal brush. And I'm gonna take a texture from this mountain and just put it here. Just getting some textures, putting it on the new layer. I use the clone stamp by holding Alt, pressing click to sample, and then I press click to draw from wherever I sampled. So now we have like our selection, but then we need some fixation. We have this new layer we created, as you can see. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this area. This is an edge, so you stand on edges, something like that. But no, it doesn't have to be a straight line because it's a mountain. Something like that is good. And I'm just gonna select it and then go to image adjustments, brightness and contrast, and just darken it up a little bit. Okay, now you see it started to appear. Looks good. Okay, there we have another edge. Let's take this one. Something like that. Make sure you don't overlap the edges. You can do that even more accurately than I'm doing now. And again, image adjustments, brightness, contrast, darken it a little bit, but you don't have to darken it the same. If you make it the same as this one, it's gonna disappear. So you either make it brighter or you make it much darker. In this case, I'm gonna make it much darker because I believe the light is harder to reach this area. It's more in depth in the mountain. Okay. And finally, I'm gonna do the last part. This one, image adjustments, brightness, contrast, and a little bit of darkening. And now we have some sort of a path here and there. If you believe, I believe this one needs a little bit of contrast. They look a little bit the same. So I'm just gonna image adjustments, brightness, contrast. I'm just gonna increase the brightness a little bit. So there's a difference between this part and that part. Now the good thing about this one, whenever you press Control click on it, you have the selection. So after I do that, I'm just gonna go to the burn tool. The burn tool makes things darker. And I'm just gonna burn a little bit here in the edges. Something like that. A little bit of burning here. Because these areas down, it's harder for the light to reach. So it should be darker. Something like that. Okay, so now it looks good, but it's so sharp. As you can see here, it's a very sharp line, so you can fix that by going to blur, gaussian blur, but make sure of course it's very low. But this is gonna blur the whole thing. I don't want that. I only wanna blur the edges. So there's a creative way to do it. I like to add a layer mask. Press Control click. And then on the layer mask, paint black. and then press Control I. Sorry, press Control D first, then Control I. So now this is what our layer mask look like. It's only revealing that part. Press Alt again to bring it back. So on the layer mask now, I'm gonna go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Now I'm only blurring my mask. You see only the edges now is getting blurred. You see only the edges. So now I'm just gonna stick to maybe 1.5 pixels. Okay, so I'm gonna press Ctrl Z. This was the before, you see very sharp edge. This is the after. We made the edge a little bit softer. One more thing I wanna do, I'm just gonna take a brush. I wanna make this one something, I'm gonna harden it down a little bit. And I wanna make this something like that. Okay, now it's good. We have here our path. Everything looks great. Except for this area, I believe this area needs to be darkened a little bit. Make sure you're on the layer, not the layer mask. Something like that. Okay, I always zoom out and zoom in just to see an overlook of the image. It looks already pretty good. But I believe this is too dark. So I'm gonna press Image, Adjustments, Brightness, Contrast, and just brighten it up. The whole thing, something like that. Okay, looks good now. Let's do some work here. I'm gonna draw any custom shape. So now we have this mountain. Let's draw any custom shape. Something, but it's important to do something that looks like attractive to the eye. I'm gonna use the pen tool. I'm gonna hold Shift to make sure it's on a straight line. Then I'm gonna hold Shift again, making sure it's on a straight line. But then I'm gonna hold Click, so I can make some sort of a curve, something like that. Then I'm gonna Alt click this point. Then I'm gonna click again, something like that. Let's just do some variation. I'm just doing anything now. I don't know actually what I'm doing. I don't know if it will look nice or no. I'm just trying. No, that doesn't look good. Okay, let's stick with that shape. And once you finish it, just right click, make selection with a zero feather. Okay. So now we have like a selection. I'm gonna add a new layer. Then I'm gonna use the clone stamp. Now I want to steal some texture. So I'm gonna take the texture from this mountain maybe, or maybe that one. Let's just alt click and just start to add some textures. And let's take from the mountain below of it and put on the lower part just to look like it's one thing. So now we have this one, something like that. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And let me copy it and drag it here. So we have two of them, one here and one there. Let's put this one down a little bit. Let's open them up a little bit, something like that. And something like that, so it looks like some sort of a gate. And one more thing, I want to put them behind that layer and behind that one also. I don't want them overlapping the mountain, I want them behind the mountain. Okay, now we have our two like selections. Okay, now we're looking at this one from that angle. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but you're just gonna see it. I'm gonna hold Alt and press right on my keyboard. So now I made a duplicate. Make sure you put it below the other one. So now I just have a duplicate of this one, but I'm just gonna move it down right. And then I'm gonna go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness, Contrast, and make it like completely white. I added some sort of a depth to it. This is what I'm trying to do. So we have here some sort of a depth to the thing. And on this one, I'm gonna do the same, Alt right, then put it below, then move it down right, and brightness contrast, and make it completely bright. So now we have some depth here and there. Okay, then now I'm gonna create some sort of a, let me do like a circle or a cylinder, something like that. I just want to make sure it's exactly the same, the top part and the lower part. Oh wait, I have to press Alt click to get rid of this tangent and then do that. I have actually a detailed tutorial on pen tool. It's in my channel. It's in a playlist called From Zero to Hero for beginners. You can check it out if you want to be professional in using the pen. Now make selection. Okay. And a new layer just to again steal some textures. Let's steal from here. Okay, now looking good. Let me make this a little bit bigger and let's move it up a little bit. Something like that. I'm looking here in the navigator on the top right. It gives you an overall look of the whole thing. I believe it looks nice now. We just need some blending, so I'm gonna add a layer mask and using a brush, but this time a very soft brush and in a very low opacity. I'm just gonna slowly erase the edge so it blends with the what's behind of it. Doing the same here, and then I'm gonna take the dodge and burn. I'm gonna hold Alt. This is burn, so if you hold Alt when you're standing on burn, it dodges. I have to be on the layer, not the mask. You see it dodges, and if I remove my hand from Alt and I just do that, it burns. So now we created some sort of a curvature. Let's again dodge a little bit here and there and burn some parts down. So now it looks more like a cylinder or curved, making it look bigger, better. Take a look here in the navigator to see what it looks like. And always don't forget to do image rotation, flip canvas horizontal. You see I even placed it for a hotkey, so I can always do it. So when you flip the whole thing, you see it from a different perspective. You can see a lot of things you didn't see before. Okay, let me take that layer now. And using the clone stamp, I want to get rid of this guy. Sorry. So I'm just gonna remove him. You can do that, of course, more accurately to zoom in and everything. Okay, now we're done with that. Let's add our final image, which is the boat. This is gonna be pain to like cut it out. I hate cutting out boats. The magic wand is not gonna really work because in water usually you have a lot of mixture of blue and white and black. So it's very hard to cut out boats with water behind them. I'm doing it just really fast using the lasso tool. You can do that, of course, more accurately to get better results. And here we go. Let's add layer mask. And let's get rid of the part here in the middle. Press double click if you're done with your selection and you want it to close. Just double click. It will automatically close to the original point. And just on layer mask paint black to remove. Okay, now we have our boat here. Let me place it. I'm gonna place it here so it looks like it's going to that direction, or we can place it here actually. Gonna be even better, I believe. So now the boat is like heading for this dungeon or valley. It's important to make sure your photo is telling a story. So here I'm trying to there's a hidden valley taking you to a very strange looking place with mountains behind of it. So we have more background, more things to explore. And here our boat is gonna be heading to the valley. So I'm just gonna fix the boat a little bit, put it in good perspective and everything. The boat needs it's too dark compared to the environment. I'm gonna rasterize it, right click rasterize. Then on the main layer I'm gonna press Ctrl M for curves, and I'm just gonna fade it out a little bit, just like we did to the mountain at the back. So now it's more faded. And one thing I have to do is press Ctrl J. Now I have two duplicates of the boat. I'm gonna take the one below, right click, apply layer mask, then Ctrl T, right click, flip vertical, and I'm just gonna put it like that, and change the blending mode to hard light and just reduce the opacity. Then add a layer mask, use a brush, a black one, and just get rid of this area because we shouldn't have reflection on rocks. We only had reflection on water. So now we created some sort of a reflection for the boat, making it look realistic. One more thing I need to do on the boat layer itself. This is important when it comes to water, very important actually, is you always should erase some parts of the lower part of the boat. Something like that. So when you zoom out and take a look, it looks like the boat is actually sinking in water. It's not on something solid. Okay, I guess we're done now with the blending. All we need to do now is let's like color grade the whole thing, add colors and everything, make it look more interesting. So I'm gonna stand on top of everything, then I'm gonna start with a curves adjustment layer. I always like to take the darkest points, which are the blacks, pull them up a little bit, then take somewhere here in the midtones, pull them down just a small bit. Then take somewhere here, pull it down a lot, something like that. But that's too strong. Somewhere here is good. And take the very bright points. You can make them even brighter by moving it to the left. Okay, looking good now. Let's add a gradient map. I always like to start with this one. The highlights, the shadows, sorry, this is the shadows point. I'm gonna make it something blue. The midtones, I'm gonna get rid of the midtones. Actually, just pull it down, you get rid of it. This one I'm gonna use actually a darker blue, something like that. And here I'm just gonna use a very bright orange, maybe more yellowish orange, something like that. Okay, then I'm gonna reduce the opacity, something to like 10%. I believe the blue is too strong, so I'm just gonna jump again to the blue and just move it to the left to lower its saturation, move it down to make it a little bit darker. Okay, now we have the gradient map. It adds a very subtle effect, but it looks nice. Now let's add another curves adjustment layer, but this time we're gonna jump to the colors. In the red, I'm gonna add some red in the highlights. You see, this is adding red to the highlights. I'm gonna add some red. I want some red here. Then I'm gonna jump to the green. I'm gonna add some magenta by pulling down, and I'll jump to the blue channel, add some yellow. And also I'm gonna add some blue to the shadows, and in the red I'm gonna add some cyan to the shadows. This is creating some sort of a contrast in colors. You see this one, it added some sort of color to the whole image, but then it's too strong. I'm just gonna lower the opacity, maybe something like that. Okay, now I'm gonna add a new layer. This one is important. I'm gonna put it to overlay mode. Then I'm gonna take my brush and I'm just gonna take a very bright orange color. Now I'm gonna draw manually some highlights with a low flow and a low opacity, of course. I'm gonna just draw something like that, just some highlights here and there, something like that. It's okay if it's too strong. It's okay if you don't like the color, if it's too strong, everything could be changed. So now we created some sort of highlight. I believe this is too orange. I want it to be a little bit reddish. So I'm just gonna press Ctrl U. It will open the hue saturation. From orange to red, you move to the left. So I'm just gonna move this one a little bit to the left, more reddish. I can reduce the saturation a little bit if it's too saturated. And of course, you can always lower down the opacity. So this is the effect we have. A little bit, it's too strong. Just lower down the opacity even more. Okay, looking good. Let me add, I want to add actually a lens flare. This is a lens flare. And just put it to screen mode. Move it here. You see the edges are visible. So what I do is, after you rasterize it, just press Ctrl M. Make sure, of course, screen doesn't show black. So Ctrl M, and whenever you make the blacks darker, you get rid of the edges. So I just make the blacks a little bit darker. We got rid of the edges. Now I'm gonna press Ctrl U to change the color. I'm gonna choose whatever color I like. Maybe something orange, of course. Something like that. Reddish orange. Just lower the opacity, the saturation, sorry. then Control T and make it a little bit smaller. I want it to be something here, maybe. And just lower the opacity a little bit if you believe it's too strong. You can also do something like hold Alt and just make another copy of it and rotate it, something like that. Wait, Control J first to make a duplicate. I didn't make a duplicate. Then just rotate it something like that. Then maybe another Control J and rotate it something like that. And you can take the three together and just lower their opacity if it's too strong. So now we have some sort of rays. Okay, the last thing I like to do always is go to a curves adjustment layer and just darken the whole thing from here and maybe from here also. Something like that. Just let's only darken it from here on top. And then I'm gonna take the brush and just paint black in the middle to erase this effect. I'm gonna erase it from here because here is the source of light, and from here the middle, because and this I'm just erasing the dark parts from the important areas in my photo. Okay, now I'm gonna press Ctrl Alt Shift then press E. This will merge everything onto a new layer, so you can go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter and edit the whole thing in one go. Okay, now we have the whole thing. First, I like to play with the clarity. You can make everything more clearer or everything softer. I will make everything softer in this case, because it's like a soft water and a soft sky and everything, and the mountains are far away, so we shouldn't see a lot of details in them. Okay, another thing, maybe add some blacks and add some whites. This adds a little bit of contrast to the photo. And then I jump to the FX module. Always add vignette. Vignette is basically a black circle around the photo, but when you do it in a very subtle way, something like -10 or something very small, it adds a lot of interest to the middle part of the photo. Then on the dehaze, if you increase it, you remove fog and make everything clearer. And if you decrease it, you just add fog to the photo. So I believe reducing it is gonna be better. We need a foggy environment here. Okay, and then always I like to jump to the camera calibration. You should play around with these colors, experiment. This one made it a lot redder and the blue more to the cyan. I like it actually. This one doesn't make a lot of difference. We don't have a lot of greens here. And here the red. We're gonna have some differences. And here I pressed OK. And that's it for today's tutorial.